What the biggest problem is that church isn't really being church. The fact that they use the word, that church members use the word always in the wrong way, like I'm going to church. That's already bad theology. And when you speak bad theology, you live bad theology. You think like, this is one of the duties I have to do. I have to get in my car and I have to drive to this place and I'm going to church. Well, no, we are the church. And we're going to be strengthened. We're going to be equipped so that we can be church better all week long. And because this is a Sabbath day, we participate in worship and we engage in worship and draw closer to God and learn more about God's will, and God shows God's self to us and reveals different aspects of who God is and how that grace sets us free, and that delivers me on a Sabbath day so that I can serve God to the hilt the rest of the week. And part of the problem is that people don't know what Sabbath day is, and that it's a community day, that we could celebrate it together. We could have dinner with another family. We could have a sports game for all the kids and the adults to play too together, and let it be a day of fun and gladness in the congregation. But our congregations don't understand themselves as a body. And so that's part of why we miss the joy of Sabbath keeping. We don't keep it as a community, and we don't help each other. So my call to people to keep the Sabbath is a real call to the community, for the community to discover each other, and in each other's help we can find more rest and not make it a hurried, frantic day. Day off is for weak people. That might be a funny thing to say. Through my own medical studies, because I'm handicapped in 12 ways myself, I've done a lot of medical research and have discovered that it's best for the human body if we rest one day a week. That the human body, no matter how hard you push it, is going to pay a price. And if we pay the price of never ceasing from our labors, then our poor body never gets a chance to recover. And we'll wind up going slower and slower and slower and slower until it finally does us in. Besides which, in modern day North America and in much of the rest of the world, we have just moved to more and more hurrying. And as a result of that greater hurrying and worrying, we have actually done ourselves harm. And more people have heart attacks, and more people have strokes, and more people have high blood pressure, and more people have stress in their life, which causes damage to various bodily organs because they never take proper rest. So I would answer that it's not for weak people, but it's for the healthiest people to take one day in 7 as a day of rest. God knew what God was doing when God commanded it. Well, I think play is not just for children. Adults who can't play aren't really mature enough. That they miss out on the realization that play is the greatest way to creativity. And play is the best way that the human inventions that have come along in the last hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years have often come out of play. And that when the human body is given space, and when the human mind is given freedom by going into play, a lot of times problems are solved. I many times discover that after I've taken a Sabbath day of rest, that I find myself much more creative and much more able to write books or solve problems with my work or whatever.
What does creativity have to do with salvation?
What does creativity have to do with salvation? I think that God saves us in more ways than just eternally. We've made that word too small. The word in the Hebrew means plenty of space. And in that plenty of space, there's lots of room for creativity. God wants us to be the fullest human beings possible, because that's the way God created us. And God frees us up by the ability of our minds to relax under play and then come into greater creativity. And so Sabbath and creativity are very much closely connected. So I think creativity a lot of times is sparked by real rest on the Sabbath day and ceasing from our usual work, and especially from worry, especially from needing to be God. All of us play Messiah all the time, think that the world can't get along without us. One day a week, it's wonderful to discover it does just fine. God first designed the Sabbath, it was so that the Jewish people would have extra time away from their labors. And they'd been slaves in Egypt, so they knew what it was like to work all the time. God wanted them to enjoy a day when they could more recognize God's grace and understand God's love in their life and be able to love God more thoroughly themselves and worship God on that day. So the whole creation of Sabbath is related to our relationship with God, and when we connect more closely with God, we connect more closely with ourselves, and then we can live more truly to who we are. I know a lot of times when I take a day of rest on Sabbath day, a lot of times the next day I know more surely what I'm doing, or I have more confidence in what direction I'm supposed to go. So a lot of times that frees me up to discover myself again and to discover what God's will is in my life. That went a different direction than I started. You can cut out that comment I just made.
Don't worry, we'll do special effects.